To say that we've gone through a lot of change the past couple years would be a massive understatement. We've transformed the way that our companies operate and our employees work. But the question is, has that transformation worked? I'm Charles Reed Anderson, Chief Strategy Officer for 8 Inc. And today we're going to discuss that. But we need to remind ourselves first of where we came from. In the pre pandemic days, 76% of us were working full time in the office, and only 22% were working in a hybrid model. Fast forward to today, and now only 32% of us are in the office, and 59% are working in a hybrid model. However, we're not done with this transition yet. Companies forecast that in 2023, only 18% of the workforce is going to work full time in the office, with 68% working in a hybrid model. Now, this is quite impressive because you have to think about all the business, operational, organizational, and digital transformation that's involved in it. And we should be excited by that. But the problem is, I remember the old stats, and we tend not to be very good at delivering transformations. In 2019, McKinsey stated that 70% of transformation initiatives fail. The following year, 2020, BCG said the exact same number. Just last year, in December of 2021, there was a survey of 1,000 global organizations, and they found that 84% of the HR transformations that were implemented failed. Now, this has been going on for a while because a few years back, Bain also said that 88% of conventional transformations failed to meet expectations, and 95% of digital transformation failed to meet expectations. So the challenge we face is, what does this actually mean for the return to the office? We've delivered transformations, but have we delivered them successfully? And part of the challenge that we look at 8 is, how do you actually deliver these new strategies? Because most firms start out with a strategy, and then they want to define the tactics they can use to deploy that strategy. But we firmly believe that if you do that, you're making a mistake. You first need to define the human outcomes that you want that strategy to deliver, and then identify the tactics. But let me explain what I mean by that. You see, right now, we know that 62% of companies have a strategy to implement hybrid work policies. And if it's in a knowledge worker firm, that's up at 90%. Once companies have defined their hybrid work strategy, they then need to look at the tactics they can deploy to implement it. And for most companies, that starts with reconfiguring their existing space or resizing it or relocating it to a lower cost center. Then they also want to look at the amenities that they're going to be offering in that new space. So it could be offering more relaxation spaces or outdoor spaces, social spaces that will drive collaboration, or fitness centers to help their employees manage their well-being. But the challenge is, you could build a beautiful office, but if you just use strategy and tactics, it's not going to guarantee that it's going to be a successful return to the office because we haven't addressed the human impact of the pandemic. We need to think about how our employees feel after the pandemic. What we know right now is that only 21% of employees are engaged at work. 44% said they experienced stress a lot the previous day. 75% struggle to incorporate well-being habits into their daily routine. 62% think their managers don't support the healthy working habits that their companies are promoting. 73% of parents said they felt burned out in the past 3 months. And 58% of employees are rethinking work-life balance. Now, these are very large surveys that are being done, and they're not just numbers. These are our friends. These are our colleagues. And what they're saying is, I'm not engaged. I feel stressed. My well-being has been impacted. I don't feel supported. I'm burned out, and I'm rethinking my future. So like I said, we can design the best offices, but if this is the way that your employees feel right now, the return to work is not going to be successful. And in addition, by ignoring these human outcomes, it's led to the Great Resignation. When we look at the number of employees worldwide that are extremely likely to switch jobs in the next 12 months, that number comes out at 43%, and it's at 50% in Asia. In the younger generation, the Gen Z and millennials, it's over 50% for all employees. And in those pandemic hires, the people that we've brought into our organizations during the pandemic and probably not properly onboarded, they're leaving at 56% and 62% in Asia. So these numbers are scary because just think about the business, operational, and financial impacts of having to replace all of these people. And if you even look at the near term, so people who are at least somewhat likely to switch jobs in the next 3 to 6 months, globally it's at 40%, in Australia it's 41%, but in India it's at 66% and nearly 50% in Singapore. So we have a lot of challenges that we have to overcome. But we can't also say, oh, it's just that younger generation that doesn't want to work. 70% of the C-suite said they are seriously considering quitting their jobs for one that provides a better work-life balance. And we have to start understanding why employees are quitting. And this is where we have a bit of a disconnect. When you talk to the employers, the top three reasons they came out with were looking for a better job, they're in poor health, or it's inadequate compensation. But when we talk to the employees to find out what they're looking for, what makes them want to stay with their employers, it's number one, they want to be valued by the organization. They want to feel valued by their manager, and they want a sense of belonging. So the challenge is we've created not only a great resignation, but a great disconnect. McKinsey surveyed people who left their jobs between April 2020 and April 2022. And what they found out is for every 100 people who left, 17 of them never even returned to the workforce, and 48% switched industries entirely. That means only 35% went back to work in the same industry. And that's left us with a massive talent shortage. In a recent survey of 40,000 companies globally, 75% of them said they're finding it difficult to source talent in the current market. And if you look at how that's impacting Asia Pacific, it's even higher. In Taiwan, 88% of companies are struggling to source talent. In Singapore, it's at 84%, 83% in China, Hong Kong, and India. Australia's 81%. And Japan's the only one below the average, and that's still at 74%. This is going to have a significant impact on our businesses going forward, and we need to address it. But now the challenge is I've painted this scenario where there is a lot of things that we need to overcome. So what should you do? There's not a simple answer for this. It was a combination of factors and years that got us into this current situation. And it's going to be a combination of factors and probably years before we get ourselves out of it. But there is some simple tips. Number one, acknowledge the journey. Don't tell your employees you're bringing them back to the new normal because this environment today is anything but normal and it's not what we want to be normal. We're in a transitional phase. So we need to help our employees address the human impact of the pandemic. We need to start redesigning our work profiles to be more human-centric. And then we have a great opportunity. We can actually define our own future for our companies and what we want them to be going forward. Tip number two, we have to start the dialogue with our employees. We have to show empathy and tell them that we understand what they went through during the pandemic and that it's probably having some impacts now. You don't have to have all the answers for them. You just have to ask the right questions and engage with them. And finally, we need to incorporate human outcomes and experiences into our return to work strategies. Building a nice office with the latest pool table and coffee machine and giving away free drinks might be nice for the first week or two, but your employees are looking for outcomes and experiences that make them want to come back to the office. And if you can deliver those, it will help you to attract and retain the best talent. In closing, please remember this. The success of our return to work and transformation initiatives depends on the human outcomes and experiences that we deliver to our employees. So the future of work is more human than you think.